Folks, welcome back. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about your rhetorical analysis that you all wrote on Robert F. Kennedy in his speech after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Overall, folks, I thought you did a really nice job on this particular speech. It was our first time trying to do a timed rhetorical analysis. We'd been working on writing them well. This was our first time trying to write them well and write them quickly. I'm glad we structured it the way that we did, that we had 40 minutes, then had a chance to chat, and then about 30 minutes to go back and revise. And so that gives us a good feel for what it's like to craft these in 40 minutes, but it also gives us a chance to go back and make sure that we were able to demonstrate that we know how to write these well, which truly has been the focus first semester. Second semester, we'll continue to work on figure out how to write them quickly as well. But writing well and reading well is, of course, the driving force. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about it through looking at the writing that some of your peers did. I want to talk about the claims that three of your peers came up with that I thought really captured some good writing moves, considering the timed writing. I want to take a look at some broad openings, ways that people opened up their essay that I thought were really intriguing, considering the timed writing. And we'll also talk about some body paragraphs, which of course is where the money is made. It's what's truly going to differentiate between a top half essay and a bottom half essay. So that's going to be the work that we're going to take a look at today. So my hope is that between the comments that you got from me throughout your entire essay, the writing that I gave you at the bottom of your essay, a paragraph or even a couple paragraphs, and then this video, that those three things should help you figure out kind of how your essay fits into the rubric. So let's take a look here. So let's start broad with just kind of a top half essay versus a bottom half essay here. These would be kind of the big three things that you'd be considering if you were able to hit that top half essay. One, the ability to identify the unique rhetorical situation. Now, this isn't necessarily a huge driving force, but this is absolutely an interesting situation to be in. That Kennedy has to deliver an unexpected speech, horrifying news to the Black community. He's out on the campaign trail. He has to totally shift gears. And so this speech, being kind of cobbled together quickly, I think is a really interesting dynamic to play with. Speaking of dynamic, this was something that a lot of top half essays identified. You have a privileged white politician delivering this news, not just some news, but this news about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. to a poor Black community. Time period certainly matters here. Race certainly matters here. Like, that dynamic is really, really important. And last but not least, and this is really the key, and it rolls together some of kind of that dynamic between speaker and audience, is to identify and then connect your reasoning and your commentary to the deeper purpose. On the surface, whenever there's a tragedy, the speech is to comfort. But we know that we have to dig deeper than that. We know that comfort is not a college level analysis as far as determining the purpose. There's got to be more to it than that. He's trying to do more than just saying, I'm so sorry. There's more to it than that. What is that thing? And we have to identify what that thing is if we have a chance at a top half essay, meaning a 130 or higher. So on the surface, the speech is about comfort. But again, this is really kind of where our money gets made here. And so I'll draw a really lumpy star, but this is what's really important. Kenny's making an argument here. Comfort is not an argument, right? Not an argument. So what is the actual argument that he's making here? Well, he's actually making a really interesting argument about the choice about how do we respond to this. Are we going to respond with fear and hate? Are we going to respond with love and wisdom? And really, in truth, I shouldn't be saying we. We are not the audience. The Black community is specifically who he's speaking to. Now, he does speak to a broader American audience, certainly. But this was not a moment that was pre-planned and that he was thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to get totally televised. That's not really his focus here. He speaks specifically to the Black community. And I think that's really, really important to drive home there too. And I'm going to actually add in that quick little note here. That this specific audience is key. Ay. Keyboard fixed. Okay, the specific audience is going to be really, really important here as we think a little bit about that purpose. And so maybe, again, we don't even necessarily think about how we respond, but about, especially for the Black community, how they are going to respond. That's going to be really the key here. All right. So let's go ahead and check out kind of the starting point, meaning that thesis statement, that claim. And then we'll kind of loop back to the top and look at some broad openings, and we'll also look at some body paragraphs. Let's take a look here at some of the claims that your peers came up with. Okay, we had talked about trying to incorporate strategies and purpose. We know we need both of those according to the rubric. We also talked about using strong verbs. Strategies have a strong verb, and then that purpose. And really, we want to use multiple strong verbs, but there's a strong verb that links what Kennedy did and why he did it, what strategies he uses and why he uses them. Really what he wants to accomplish. And actually, I kind of like that idea of thinking through this as some whats and some whys. Notice kind of the opening here. By appealing to a sense of community as well as utilizing his own past experiences with grief. Boom. That's a great example of what strategies Kennedy is using. I love that idea of kind of opening up with the what here. And then notice what follows. It's really kind of his why. Why does he give this speech, right? Like, what's the actual argument here? And we really see that come through here. So we have what he does, strategies, strong verb that he emphasizes, and then what is he arguing? He's arguing that unity and coalition act as paramount solutions to the vision that led to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. I really think that we've got some great moments here for kind of talking about this deeper purpose. Not about comfort. He's not making an argument about comfort. He is making an argument about division versus unity. I think that's a really interesting dynamic that this writer created for us. We see similar patterns in the second one. By encouraging the Black community to choose equality over division, and by showing them that America can get past this difficult situation, as we have once as a nation, and as he did once before with the death of his brother, Kennedy urges Americans to come together and move forward from this event as one country. Now, this is probably a little bit long. This is what happens when we try and list 3 things. But I included it because I still feel like, even though it's lengthy, we still have what strategies he utilized, albeit a bit too long. We still have that what. But I also really like this idea of the why here. He's arguing this. Remember, everything's an argument. I might also say that he's not just urging Americans, but maybe this is a chance to go ahead and really drive home the Black community. This could be a great chance for this writer to really drive that home. But in truth, they did bring up the Black community up here. But that could be just a great little reminder there. But overall, we have a clear what, we have a clear why. Last but not least, I really liked this one. By utilizing the messages and ideals of others, including Martin Luther King Jr. himself, Senator Kennedy urges, strong verb, the African American people in his crowd, as well as the Black community as a whole, to work towards equality and justice for their community using nonviolent tactics. This was one of my favorite of the claims, just because, again, I think we so clearly have what Kennedy does, a strong verb, and then the why. We have strategies, we have strong verbs, we have purposes. I think all three of these capture those. I think all three of these, although not necessarily flawless, would earn that thesis statement point. But I loved this last one. I thought that was really smart. And I also liked even just like the little M dashes. Not a requirement, but just like little ways to say I'm going to embed this into my introduction and into my thesis statement, into my claim. To start to communicate my own writing skills. So I thought these were three great ones to go ahead and help us think through our own claims. Okay, but how do we actually open up this essay? Now that we've established this deeper purpose, right? That really it's about how to respond. Is it going to be fear and hate or with love and wisdom? Which way are we going to respond? Which way is the Black community going to respond? Will you stay true to Martin Luther King Jr.'s teachings, or will you deviate from those? Let's go ahead and take a look at how some people opened with those core ideas. We talked about, for our introduction, considering using the upside-down triangle model, where we start broad, and then we start to narrow into this particular text. And we talked about this idea, saying we're going to spend 2-3 sentences on our broad opening. Then we'll lead in 2-3 sentences to establish this particular text that we're analyzing. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, literally and symbolically getting to the point, with the thesis statement. So we talked about the thesis statement or the claim a moment ago. I want to talk about broad openings and then kind of the transition into that lead in. I think we see that clearly here in each of these three. Notice that as you look through these, this is about acting out savagely when something goes wrong. Doesn't even say anything about Martin Luther King Jr. yet, or the assassination, or Robert Kennedy. But we have idea of compassion over hate, peace over violence, justice over lawlessness. What a great broad opening, because these are those core ideas. And we also have some interesting parallel structure here. So not only did this writer open with the broad core ideas of Kennedy, we have some parallel structure, which is really cool. Not crucial, but I thought that was cool. But I love this broad opening. Not about Kennedy, not about MLK. It's about choices. That's that key word, right? It's about making choices about how are we going to move forward. Compassion over hate, peace over violence, justice over lawlessness. It's about choices. Boom. Then they go ahead and they transition into this particular text. And they've got 2 or 3 sentences, which I didn't include all of them here, but just so we can kind of see how that transitions. We see a similar thing here. As we take a quick look, broad opening here. Violence to end violence is never the answer. Here they do bring up King early, but remember, we're not analyzing King, we're actually analyzing Robert F. Kennedy. So opening with King actually works here because we're not talking about this particular text yet. Then Notice that transition. It is with this understanding that Robert F. Kennedy speaks to, off they are running. I thought this was a great example of pulling a thread, meaning this little phrase, it is with this understanding. And what our writer's talking about is the understanding discussed right up here. That Kennedy understands that King did not believe in fighting violence with violence, right? It's with that understanding that, boom, now we're into this particular text. Awesome, cool. Last but not least, another broad opening here that I thought was interesting. Turning hatred into motivation is an extremely important skill. It's not easily applied to real life. And then it's through this idea that just got discussed that Robert F. Kennedy persuades the Black community to, boom, they're into this text. Great little openings, 2-3 sentences about those core ideas. We see that clearly in each of these. So we've got that broad opening. Then we've got this middle section, which I didn't include all of here, but that's where we go ahead and we establish a little bit more about this particular text. And then we've got that claim at the end. Okay, last but not least, let's go ahead and check out some body paragraphs. You have access to this. You can pause the video and you have access to this document. So we're not necessarily going to read through all of them together, but I want to go ahead and use just kind of a quick overview here. I really think that this is a great example of thinking about how we want to utilize evidence. You'll notice that this writer used little pieces of evidence. And the beauty of that then is that then the majority of our writing is all focused on your reasoning, your commentary, why it is that Kennedy did this. So I love that we've got the evidence, but that reasoning really becomes the driving force. And once again, our reasoning, commentary, is connected directly to a deeper purpose. Notice 2 paths they can take, established here, through anger or through kindness and forgiveness, right? I think we clearly have that here. Exemplifies many ideals and qualities that King had encouraged. He wants them to be better than those who cause pain and suffering and replace their violence with peace. That's so core to what Kennedy is trying to accomplish here. It's what he's trying to argue. I think that's a great, great moment that this writer brought up. Now, you'll also notice that this writer identified antithesis, this idea of putting these opposites together. Are you going to choose A or are you going to choose B, right? Play with those opposites a little bit. You could also argue that he's juxtaposing these 2 pathways. But even if you don't have those big words, antithesis is brilliant to bring up, but it's not crucial. You can still make a really good argument here. So this is what the writer focused on, but why they focused on it is what I highlighted here in pink. And that's truly the key. That's where we want to focus our attention. So let's take a look here at a couple others. Sample body paragraph number 2. Again, we won't read through the entire thing, but I think there were some great writing moves in here. Once again, we've got some great moments. In this case, we have one particular moment that they wanted to focus on. Kennedy talking a little bit about how he feels or he understands kind of like what it is that they're feeling, but notice what then follows. That by bringing this up, this allows Kennedy to understand his present audience, the repressed Black community, on a deeper level. Boom. This whole thing is really the pink section. But I really wanted to draw attention there. I'll highlight the whole thing here. But I really thought this was a strong moment here from this particular writer. What a great way to go ahead, drive home that specific community. Loved that. And why he made this move for that community. Great, great moment here from this writer. All right. And again, I encourage you to pause and actually read through all of these. We see more of the same here. Same moment, but someone wrote about it in a different way. I liked that this person actually pulled in a few different pieces of evidence, but notice how short those are compared to that reasoning. Again, great emphasis here from this other writer on that audience. Very much connected to purpose. And more of the same here. Talking about juxtaposition, not division, not hatred, not violence, not lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion toward one another. Great moment again that clearly plays into this particular purpose. Sorry, my highlighter is not keeping up. There we go. Great evidence to pull because it's so clearly connected with purpose. But why does he do it, right? To contrast what he expects society to feel and how he wants society to feel or react, right? Boom. Now we are going from there. Awesome. So again, our dominant focus here is that commentary, the reasoning, the why. Why in the world did this speaker make this choice for this audience? All four of these body paragraphs do a really nice job of putting the emphasis on that dynamic, coming all the way back up to our very, very first point. That's about how to respond. Our thesis statements, our claims were about how to respond. Our openings were about how to respond. Our body paragraphs, how to respond, why Kennedy made these choices for this audience in this particular speech. And that's really our big focus here. So folks, I encourage you to either pause the video and give these a careful read, or you can locate these in the other in the other document. But spend some time on this. And I hope that in between the comments I left you throughout, the paragraph I wrote you at the bottom of your essay, and then this video, that we have a little bit of extra clarity just to help you kind of have some of our ideas reinforced that we've already started to talk about in class and that we will continue to work on. Keep up the great work. Take some time to review this week. And if you have any additional questions, comments, or concerns, I would love to chat with you about them. Folks, have a great day. Keep up the great work. And I'm excited to see what we have for our next few weeks ahead of us and, of course, beyond.